Hey everyone, quick non-existent intro for my day video here of my day 3 climb of Avengers Tower. Um, for the most part, I think I'm just going to comment a little bit at the start of every match about how I came up with the idea for most of the battles, and not actually comment much on the fight themselves unless they're particularly noteworthy for some reason. I don't think any of them really are. I'm just going to discuss my thought process and hopefully help some people watching this to think along the same lines as I do to maybe help them push a little further. Here with my Uncanny X-Men that I've loaded in against Floor 71 Shadowland, it's a bit of a risk, but it's one I'm willing to take because I need to basically use all of my 500,000 and 600,000 teams to stretch my roster as far as I can. Most of my strongest heavy teams are in the 800,000 range. A few are barely over a million. I think in particular Astonishing, Gamma, Darkhold, and Unlimited are all, just like barely over 1 million. So that to stretch my free-to-play roster as much as possible, I have to use my 5, 6, and 700,000 teams as much as I can here between floors 70 and 80 or so, so that I can use my highest teams to, because my goal for today was to push to beat floor 89 from floor 71 here. The reason I started on 71 today and not like 75 or 79, because my original plan yesterday for day 2 was to finish floor 79, went horrifically bad. There were a few particularly bad cases of RNG that messed up some of my more ambitious plans, took some risks that I didn't have to take, yada yada yada. Basically, my day 2 is embarrassingly bad, and at one point, when I accidentally lost a battle, instead of retreating on floor 63, I think, for the first time, I had to redo a couple floors, and at that point, I was so ticked off that I just stopped recording, deleted all the footage. So, unfortunately, no video about how I got through day 2 yesterday because it is embarrassingly bad, but you get to watch what I did for day 3, which is here. You'll see basically for this fight, Uncanny versus Shadowland, I just get rid of Night Nurse and White Tiger as quickly as possible. I think I killed off White Tiger first. I would strongly suggest killing off Night Nurse first instead. In practice, I think getting rid of Night Nurse, stopping that constant speed bar gain whenever one of them drops below 50%, that stupid sustain mechanic. And then after that, once those two strongest enemies are gone, Magic Drain helps them outlast the rest, and she can resummon Phoenix if anything bad happens. So now we'll move on to floor 72. The original plan was to use Zemo X Factor. I was worried it wouldn't work particularly well, but I figured, okay, my Zemo is gear tier 16. As long as he lands the ability block on Doom or not, I can play it like you do with Z Factor versus something like, or Rhino X Factor versus Brother Doom in War, right? Where if you use a well-timed Shatterstar ult for defense up, you can survive a Doom ult. That was my plan here, but it turns out I completely underestimated my X Factor, and even though they're only gear 14, the enemies here must have their stats toned down a little bit or something, because they absolutely shredded everything here with heavy damage, so not much else to comment on after the fact. You'll see the ability block did land on Doom, so I just have to get a few more crits and he dies. For floor 73, originally I'd consider using my Astonishing X-Men, but it felt like actually a bigger risk than the floor I ended up using my Astonishing on anyway. Here, I think SA Kestrel is a bit of overkill, but I honestly could not think of anything I could have that would be less overkill than SA Kestrel. So I just went with it because I couldn't particularly find any mission or any floor later on in my projected climb up to 88 or 89 where SA Kestrel would have been useful anyway. So I just brought them in here and way overkilled this. Yeah, the end. For floor 74, I'm using a classic Black Order versus Weapon X. It's a bit of a small punch up, around 10%, but in my experience, Black Order has beaten Weapon X most times when I needed it in Tower, so I figured I'd just give it another shot. It was the most optimal use for my Black Order. I couldn't find another floor where Black Order would have done particularly well anyway, so I went for it. Thankfully, it worked out. Not much else to say here. Floor 75 jump cut. The jump cut is cutting out a bit of hesitation that I had. Despite that, I knew all along I wanted to use a Tangled Web here. I was not sure if I wanted the two tag-alongs to be Hela and Zombie Iron Man, who are very, very powerful in their own right, or Captain Marvel and Jessica Jones, because from my pretty much unupgraded A4s to just tag along. Um, I think I probably could have gotten away with using Captain Marvel and Jessica Jones because Tangled Web is just that powerful. Weaver in particular, especially after that screw up from like yesterday. But I at this point I was deciding better safe than sorry. I could not think of a, or like the only time I was really thinking I might end up using Undying anyway would have been a later floor, like floor 80, or is it 80 or 85, or whichever floor it is with like the three symbiotes and Red Guardian and Doctor Doom. Um, I figured Undying would be a very good backup plan for that floor. But I don't know. I played it safe, rather safe, instead of sorry here at 476. So that's about all I can comment here. And they nuked that floor. For floor 76, I think I just made another jump cut. Um, Here, I'm loading in Loki, New Warriors, and Silver Surfer. And spoiler, it does not work. In previous towers, it works by using Emma instead of Loki, but I already budgeted Emma elsewhere and figured, okay, I'll just try Loki. What could go wrong? What goes wrong is that Surfer is no longer faster than Ghost Rider because I'm using Loki instead of Emma, and that gives him enough speed bar to start ruining my day. If Cloak or Dagger dies too quick, you are in trouble, and you can see that that absolutely troubled me here. Bad match, unlucky. So I had to go for a backup plan, which we will see next. After my New Warriors' horrific failure to the Dark Hunters, jumped cut to the backup plan, Weapon X Emma. There's a bit of irony here in that I didn't want to use Emma because I had budgeted at Weapon X Emma for, I think it was floor 87, the one with Morbius, Lady Deathstrike, Yo-Yo, Vision, and Viv, or something like that. Um, it's kind of ironic that I ended up choosing to use Emma here anyway. Um, and basically my New Warriors went to waste. But I found a creative workaround when I got to floor. Yeah, spoiler alert, I make it to floor 87 at least. Found a creative backup plan when I got there, and luckily it didn't go too terribly. Weapon X overkills Dark Hunters, especially with the Emma speed change, making Lady Deathstrike faster than Ghost Rider and Voodoo. For floor 77, another jump cut, cutting out about 3.5 minutes of just me thinking. My original plan for this mission was to use Red Hulk and Morgan Le Fay alone yesterday on day 2, after using non-legendary Gambit and non-legendary Darkhold somewhere else. Fortunately, that's not how my yesterday played out, but as I said earlier, I don't want to talk anything about day 2. Here, I decided to use Eternals here rather than something like, say, Gamma, because, well, Gamma could handle other things, and Eternals oftentimes will need tiebreakers for something like Unlimited, with Rogue was 127 speed, or I don't know what else. Other Eternals, where the other Icarus also is 126 speed, I'd have to use a tiebreaker character, and I've already used 3 of them. I've already used Nick Fury, I've already used Emma, and I've already used Loki. So the only tiebreaker character I have left is Cable, who I was hoping to use with Unlimited X-Men against another Rogue and Gambit on some later floor, number of which I don't remember. So because of that, I decided I don't want to risk any coin toss RNG that could screw me over. So my Eternals are going without any tiebreaker characters. They're going with Black Bolt and Yo-Yo against the Dormammu team. Thankfully, it works out. For 78, I'm about to use my Heroes Guardians, who, fun fact, are a team I only remembered existed because when loading in my new warriors earlier against Dark Hunters, I accidentally selected, or I misclicked Mighty Thor instead of Deathpool in the team select screen. It's a silly story, but it's also kind of funny because, and I mention it because it's a nice example of flexibility when climbing the tower here. Because my new warriors reminded me that I had my heroes guardians, it allowed me to not panic when my new warriors lost that mission. I was still unhappy that they lost, of course, but because I remembered my heroes guardians existed, they helped me realize that, wait, my heroes guardians can crush floor 78, which let me reshuffle the team I was originally planning for floor 78, which was a Doombomb, Star-Lord Doom, and then use Doom special ult turn 1 to special wipe the entire floor. It allowed me to reshuffle that Doombomb for a later floor, basically making up for my new warriors failing to take down a floor. So it's just a nice example of flexibility, and it's a nice story that I thought I'd share because it's the type of mentality and thought process that is very important, and it's the resilience you need to climb well in tower. For floor 79, I'm taking inspiration from several War and Crucible offense attacks I've done, using my Astonishing X-Men to defeat Weaver teams or Underworld teams. I'm not joking. In Crucible, obviously Astonishing get a huge boost from the current mutant buffs, so they can easily sustain the opening blast from Taskmaster, and then they just start feeding off the Kingpin summons. In War, they have to punch down a lot because Underworld get boosted a ton. Against Weaver, I have had Crucible matches that were decided by the fact that my Astonishing X-Men took out a Weaver team in one hit. And the reason it works oftentimes is because they burn through Weaver charges super fast. Iceman passive attacks clear Weaver charges. Bishop special and Kitty ult, which are unavoidable, still clear charges because the assist can still miss. And then Bishop counterattacks are also great for clearing off Weaver charges. Ultimately, that's not the point, but it is because of those experiences where I've used Astonishing against Kingpin or against Weaver that I decided that I was willing to take the risk here. Also, I'm biased in favor of my Astonishing and think that they can do anything, so I gave it a shot. Unfortunately, because I hit Kingpin too many times, he gave Weaver a defense up, and my Jubilee failed to land a stun or blind on her, which is horrifically bad news. If anyone else goes for this with like a 900,000 or 1 million Astonishing, what you need to make sure you do different from me is use your Iceman basic and Kitty ult on turn 1 into X23 instead of Spider-Woman. Even Beast basic should probably go into X23 instead, because it'll still splash Spider-Woman into a D-down. As I just said, if you hit Kingpin too much, if you hit him twice, he will go before Jubilee and put that defense up onto Weaver, which makes it significantly harder to land debuffs on her. And that is why, since I couldn't stun or blind Weaver, she killed off Beast, which absolutely hurts. Thankfully, the Kingpin summons give me enough turn meter in Jubilee's passive to kill off Weaver. I sacrificed Bishop in order to do that because Weaver is just that dangerous. So here I Bishop ult Weaver to get rid of her, accepting the fact that Gwen Retaliation will kill him, and then I hope that I can blind Gwen, she doesn't dodge too much, and then I can hopefully clear this out with my remaining Astonishing. So because I did not, because I did hit Kingpin too much by not attacking it to X23 at the start, that mistake turned this win from a pretty easy one to an extremely dicey one. Thankfully, I managed to get through, surviving closely on Jubilee Blind and the tiny amount of healing that Kitty does when the enemies miss. The team I'm about to load into floor 80 is going to lose. That team is my Deathseed. Before I discuss why I thought Deathseed might beat this floor, I should also mention they do crush Dark Hunters with the opening blind from Magneto, and the offense down assist from Dark Beast that can weaken Ghost Rider significantly because his special turn 1 can't miss, whatever. Point is, I could have used my Deathseed to crush the Dark Hunters on floor 73, where my New Warriors ended up screwing up, but that's a different story. Here, the reason I thought I might be able to get my Deathseed to work is because I assumed that I would be able to kill both bishops and thus rewind the Eternals enough for Psylocke to be able to rewind Icarus and give me a good amount of time. I was dead wrong. I cannot kill both bishops. Unfortunately, that did not work out, and I had to tank the Icarus ult, which hurts a ton. Even if I get my evades and counterattacks from Psylocke, because the rewind happened, Cersei is still going to be able to ult, and I think my Dark Beast dies here, which the bleeds become too dangerous, and it's now a problem. So unfortunately, my Deathseed didn't work. I imagine if they were bigger and not punching up so much, they probably could have just tanked the Eternals ults and then killed them off. But unfortunately, I tried to punch up much higher than I should have, and it goes wrong. So after that unfortunate failure, I have to come up with a replacement for floor 80. And the only way I can recover this is with a very risky gamble. It's to use my Infinity Watch here, which in itself is not the risky part, but rather the fact that originally I was planning to use my Infinity Watch on floor 81, which if you look at now, doesn't look too intimidating, but I don't have much, like, Infinity Watch is a very safe bet to clear out floor 81, which was my original plan, and instead, I pull my Infinity Watch from 81 onto 80 here, and then I play a much riskier gamble on the next floor after this. So as I said before, my original plan for floor 81 was to be Infinity Watch, but because I reallocated Infinity Watch to floor 80, I have to come up with a new plan for 81, which is jump cut to a Doombomb. This Doombomb idea is inspired by like floor 95 or 96 or whatever it was of the old tower, where I discovered a strategy of Star-Lord, Doom, Shang-Chi, Emma, and Surfer to beat some crazy enemy team with like Captain Sam, two Shang-Chis, and a Kestrel, where the idea was use Surfer to strip the charge off Kestrel, and then Doom can pop off turn 1 with Shang-Chi going also 4 times in a row. And you can see this happen here. I use the exact same idea, and Kingpin and Taskmaster are just there as extra bodies. Kingpin is there because he or the Merc Bodyguard were a very good way to minimize the chance of an Abomination stunning Shang-Chi or Star-Lord, because Shang-Chi and Star-Lord have to survive. You need them to not get stunned, so Star-Lord can give energy to Doom, and so Shang-Chi can rewind the enemy. And I was so lucky that Shang-Chi was able to go before Captain Sam. Otherwise, this would have gone so much riskier. This was such a big gamble, but thankfully it paid off in a very nice way. Before I discuss floor 82, and I'm starting the conversation early because there's a lot to say here, I want to look at the enemies on the right side of the screen. I want to think of the order 4, 2, 1, 5, 3 is the order they're loaded on the enemy screen. Jubilee, Omega, Taskmaster, Rogue, and then Samurai is the order they're loaded in, and we'll see once the team spawn in. Jubilee's in the middle, Omega Red is next behind her, then Taskmaster on the other side of her, then Rogue on one end, and Samurai on the other. This is true for every single floor of the tower, and it's a very useful pattern because floor 82 here is actually a pretty open-ended floor in my opinion. There's a few floors, such as when I use Black Order and Weapon X, or a few more floors later in the 80s, where I felt for my plan to work today, a specific team had to go there. My Black Order had to take on that Weapon X on floor, what was it, 74? Because that was the only team I could, like, it was the best use of my Black Order uh, by far. My Black Order would not work anywhere else, and anything else that could have beaten Weapon X would have been a bit overkill. So 82 is not one of those situations. I was looking at the turn order based on that 4-2-1-3-5 pattern that is the way I think of it to try and remember. And using that pattern, I figured that Wepex Emma might have also passed this. I was thinking Lady Deathstrike would be able to rewind into Rogue and Omega and Jubilee because what's her face? Emma would guarantee that Lady Deathstrike is faster than Rogue because they have the same speed otherwise. But I ultimately decided War Dogs because I figured that opening burst would do more. I was right. I got so lucky that Black Panther was just big enough to still bleed out Rogue, even though he didn't kill her. And I feel like I sort of lucked out, but also chose pretty smartly for this mission. So, floor 82, yeah, a bit more of extra things to talk about, because it's one of the floors that did also very much test my understanding of where the positions would be. Unlike 82, I was just discussing how 82 felt like a flexible mission where there's multiple choices. 83 was not. I felt 83 had to be one of two options, and the other one was already taken. This one was either Black Order or Bionic Avengers, because it reminded me a lot of another floor, I think also in the 80s, of the Last Tower. If anyone remembers the floor that had the 3 new warriors plus 2 Thanoses on the Last Tower, for that mission, the 3 options were Uncanny X-Men, mine are not big enough, Bionic Avengers, or Black Order. This mission reminded me very heavily of that because of the way it's set up with Cloak and Dagger again. So I figured it was either Bionics or Black Order, and my Black Order have already been used. So this had to be Bionics. There was no other choice for me. Um, Unfortunately, I knew it was also gambling because if anyone died instantly, I would be in huge trouble. If both Brawns hit the same target, I could wave goodbye to them. And also, as you can see, I got unlucky and Dazzler wiped out my Hulkbuster with a really bad for me crit. So that made this fight a lot more scary than I'd hoped for. But I am still able to say that I still got through it, thankfully, because Viv has had just enough sustain and Bionics had just enough energy for me to survive long enough and spam the bronze with ability blocks and stay alive. On floor 84, jump cut to my symbiotes, full disclosure, they are going to lose. I am, however, going to huff copium and say that if my symbiotes were bigger or if I gotten luckier, I still think I would have won this. With symbiotes, you just have to switch symbiote Spider-Man to a skirmisher so he can strip the taunt off of Red Guardian after Carnage takes his turn. And I thought that, oh, I can just grab my defense up using anti-venom and I will survive this. And Venom will ability block Doom and it'll play just like symbiotes versus old Marauders before Maddie. That's what I thought. Unfortunately, here I get horrifically unlucky, and not only do I lose all my buffs on Venom, but the disrupt spreads onto, or their venom spreads their disrupts onto my symbiote Spider-Man and Scream. So maybe it's a placement order thing. And because of that, I don't get the speed up from my own venom dying while their Scream does. And that alone, I think, completely screws over my momentum, and this attack just goes down the drain after that. It's so painful to have failed this way, but I suppose I do have to admit I was punching up a little bit more than I could chew. So if it wasn't enough to try and fail floor 84 using a bio raid team with a quick ability block once, I did it again. I went in with my Web Warriors this time, the direct upgrade from Symbiotes, and promptly proceeded to get my ass handed to me by the worst luck I've ever had. That's a bit of an overstatement, but basically what happens is Gwen's ability block gets resisted. No, it's not because of deflect stopping the crit, it's not because she didn't crit. Her ability block crits but gets resisted. That annoyed me so much that the moment it happened, I instantly quit. Granted, what I probably should have done, if I wasn't so tilted, should have been to slow it down onto 1x speed and see how many, if any, of my web warriors could have possibly dodged Doctor Doom's special, because the special is not unavoidable, only as basic is. However, I didn't have much faith, also because Venom was still alive and his basic is undodgeable. Um, or maybe I'm just making up excuses to explain why I quit. But yeah, that kind of tilted me, and basically because of this not working, web's not working, I had to settle for only 88 floors instead of 89. So prior to this catastrophe, I was actually initially planning to complete this floor with my web warriors, of course, and then get all the way up to floor 89. However, because of my web warriors failing, or I guess me deciding prematurely, that they were going to fail, I ended up overkilling this with my unlimited X-Men. Previously, my unlimited X-Men were planned for the next floor, floor 85, and the team I'm going to use on 85, which is going to be Gamma, was originally meant for floor 89. So originally I was going to reach 89 instead of 88, but because of a few setbacks along the way, especially this last setback here at floor 84, being one I could not recover from, cost me one floor in the max I could reach today. I guess I could also point out that this is also the part where I started regretting using Undying with Tangled way earlier, back on what floor was that? 72, 73? I don't remember. But uh, Undying with Hela and Zombie Iron Man having that ridiculous opening ability block was one of my backup plans for this just past floor as well, because even if Scream gets speed up and heals him from killing Greg, there's no Carnage to give him speed bar, so I would have been perfectly okay with going with Undying, having a quick 2-turn ability block from Zombie Iron Man special and Hela ult, and that might have been able to handle the Symbiote Doom floor. Instead, I ended up doing what I just did with my Unlimited, and then Gamma being delegated from 89 to instead cover this floor, which was supposed to be done by my Unlimited with Cable. I think Dark Holding 86 is a no-brainer for me, at least where I am now, because I don't have anything left that can beat Eternals. My own Eternals are gone, my Infinity Watch is gone. Uh, Darkhold is pretty much all that's left that can beat them. So this one's a no-brainer. Not much to comment. In my opinion, floor 87 is pretty open-ended. Previously, before a bunch of failures, my plan was Weapon X Emma, but now it's this. This team looks like a mess. But if you remember from the previous tower run, I used to do this a lot actually. I did Red Guardian and Black Widow, pray for the 60% chance that she speeds up Dormammu, and then he just carries a team to victory against something. I did this a couple times in the last tower, and I'm doing it again now because it's the only way I can make two teams to be 87 and 88 at this point. Previously to a few setbacks, originally the plan would have been something like Weapon X Emma here. Dormammu would go with Young Avengers to ensure I crush floor 88. And then if I didn't have to mess up a few more times, Gamma would have taken on 89. That was the original plan. Obviously not a possibility here with how many failures I had. So here I had to stretch and use Dormammu and Ultron to try and carry this mission. And then Young Avengers would have to mirror the next floor of Young Avengers without support from Dormammu. On to the final mission, 88, that I can reach today. This is the last floor I can get to. I'm once again doing something slightly inspired by Crucible, which is a Young Avenger mirror match, but a support character or stronger character instead of America Chavez. In previous Crucibles, more frequently in Season 0 or preseason rather than right now, I had to go several times into Young Avenger mirror matches because it was all I had left. I would go my Young Avengers and either Dr. Octopus or Shang-Chi in place of my America Chavez, who is like tiny. So that I would do that for Young Avenger mirror matches and in Crucible, and this is what I had to do now. Originally, my plan was to use Dormammu here, but because of the several setbacks I had until now, Dormammu was the only way. Dormammu carrying a team was the only way I could get through 87 now, because originally I wanted to use Weapon X Emma or something else for 87, and then Young Avengers with Dormammu to have a guaranteed win on this floor. But as we just saw, I had to break that up, and ultimately the complex decision I had to make was exactly that. I have to drop Dormammu to carry 87, which means I need someone else to support my Young Avengers, and it's either Doc Ock, Mr. Sinister, or Ultron, and I ultimately decided Doc Ock to eliminate as best I could the chance of my characters getting offense down, so that basically my Squirrel Girl's offense downs will stick, whereas theirs won't. The only offense down they can get is their Kate Bishop flipping my offense ups, because side note, apparently buffs getting flipped, that an offense up getting flipped to an offense down is not subject to Dr. Octopus's resistance check for whatever reason. I don't get it either, but that's how this game works apparently. And for this mission, just like in those Crucibles that I mentioned, the entire strategy is to show that my intelligence or lack thereof is still superior to that of the computer. So that is all I have to show for my day 3 climb of the currently running Avengers Tower. I hope that this video showcasing some of my thoughts, my strategies, my ideas, my way of thinking in regards to climbing the tower, I hope that this information is helpful or entertaining to someone out there. If so, thank you for watching. You can, of course, as I always say, let me know what you think using the comments or the feedback options below. Thank you for watching, and as of the time I recorded the footage, I was in 8th place on the leaderboard.